Hey guys, welcome to the investor.bet NRL round 21 betting preview. In this video, every week I run through all the games, go through who I think is going to win and why, and any bets I'm considering taking in those matches, and also go through from an odds and betting trends perspective, which teams have been favored in their past matches, what the odds have been, who's been covering, what the total points line has been, have their games been going over or under the total, and all the information you need to be able to make really smart betting decisions on each game. And throughout the season, a lot of people have seen really good results by consistently following this process every single week. And all the tools I use that I show in this video are part of the NRL Bet Finders. And I want you guys to know that when I'm talking about games, I'm not just going off my opinion about teams, which teams I think are good, bad, anything personal. It's majority of all the betting decisions I make are all based off statistics and actual data analysis of these teams' performances, because that's how you can make the best possible betting decisions. So we're going to run through all the games, but before we do, I just want to quickly recap last weekend's games. It was another really good round from a betting perspective for myself personally. I hit 4 of my 5 main plays. The Roosters being the only game that let me down. I gave them that shot against a top 4 side because this season the Roosters have only beaten one current top 8 side, being the Canterbury Bulldogs, and they've lost their games against every other top 8 opposition, and I think that's a major concern with them going forward. However, still hit 4 of the 5 other games, and then we also hit a high number of our try score bets. So that's a separate video I've posted 2 times so far over the past 2 weeks. And we've been hitting a lot of the try scorers. So definitely keep an eye out for that video. That will be out later on this week. So last weekend, we had 7 total games. 3 sides had the bye. And we had a week of unders. Only 2 games went over the total points line. Clearly, that was the Rabbitohs Tigers game. And the other matchup that went over was the Panthers getting over the top of the Dolphins late in that matchup. The rest of the games went under the total points line. Home sides last week won 6 of the 7 games, Broncos being the only away team to go on and win. And also, home teams covered 5 of the 7 games. The 2 away sides are covered, obviously Broncos and the Dolphins, who are double-digit underdogs against the Panthers. They're able to cover the spread and nearly won outright. Favorites covered 5 of the 7 games. Storm and Dolphins were the only underdogs who covered their matches, so Storm winning outright. And favorites won 6 of the 7 games. So a good week and for favorites. Favorites have definitely turned the corner over the past 4 weeks, especially now. So earlier on in the season, a lot of underdogs were winning. That's definitely turned around. The better sides are now starting to step up. And this is like kind of a trend, not to the level we've seen it this season. However, a trend that happens a lot, especially in the NRL, the first 4 to 8 weeks of the season, there's a lot more underdogs winning, especially outright, than there is later on in the season. So definitely keep that in mind. So we'll keep powering on and finish the season strongly. Here are the ATS records so far this season. So these are the teams that have been covering the spread and the situations when they've been doing so. Home sides have a really good record covering 83 games, and underdogs have also covered 83 games. So we're going to see those numbers even out slightly. And with the totals record, as I said, this weekend's games went under the total. It's now 77 to 71 in favor of the under overall. Night matches are 49 to 49. Day matches slightly to the under. Now we look ahead to this weekend's games. Kick starts on Friday night at 6 p.m. We've got 2 big favorites on Friday night. Early game, Warriors at home to the West Tigers. Tigers sit last on the ladder. They've lost their past 4 games. Warriors have lost 4 of their past 5. And if they lose this game, are definitely 100% out of the finals race. If they're not already, it'll be still very hard for them to make it from here. But obviously, this is a must win, and the more they win by would be the better for them. They're 13.5-point favorites, $1.24 on the money line. It's a game they really should be winning. They've won the past 6 versus West Tigers and covered 3 of the past 4. Do think they get over the line here. Definitely not keen on minus 13.5, laying that many points for the Warriors, even though they should be winning. This matchup is a very kind of tricky from a betting perspective. I feel like the 2 ways you can kind of play it is taking the Warriors on the money line into something else, or looking at potential try scorers in this game, especially on the edges for the Warriors. I think there'll be some good spots there. That's the two ways I'm looking at playing it. The total at 49.5 points. Looking at this number, feel like it is slightly high at 49.5. I could definitely have it a couple of points lower. It is significantly higher than their past three. However, that total has been creeping up. Their last matchup, round 24 last season, totaled 52 points, with the Warriors winning 30 points to 22. The problem, though, with playing the under the 49.5 is if the Warriors are on and the Tigers are off, then the Warriors could put up 40 points easily themselves. The Tigers have conceded 40 plus in their past 4 matches, and against Rabbitohs, Sharks, Melbourne, and Roosters during that time. However, the Warriors are a team that are capable of scoring. However, they're kind of a bit hit and miss and very inconsistent when it comes to their overall scoring, so makes them a little bit hard to trust. Attacking wise, they're ranked 12th in the league. And I also have them ranked 14th in meters per point, which suggests they don't generally take advantage of their opportunities. So probably a stay away game from a major bet, but potentially looking at the Warriors money line or try scorers in that game. Later game, Parramatta take on the Melbourne Storm. The Storm have won the past three, and they're 15.5 point favorites in this matchup. It's very hard to see Melbourne losing this game. I think they win and win comfortably. They put up 48-16 at Suncorp in round 11 this season against Parramatta. They're only 11.5 point favorites there. Lines moved up 4 points. This game was at a neutral venue, so it wasn't officially a Melbourne home game. And I feel like they just rack up another big score here. They're the second best attacking side going up against the second worst defensive side. Storm is solid defensively. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Storm win this game by 20 or more points. I feel like this is another good game where we could take the line minus 15.5, or playing the general overs over 51.5. Mitch Moses out for the Parramatta Eels massively hurts them overall as a side. And I think the Storm win this in dominant fashion. You could also look at try scorers in this game, but we'll cover that in the upcoming video. But definitely lean towards Storm covering that line, even though it is very big. Personally, as part of my overall betting strategy, I generally stay away from big lines well into the double digits. Prefer to work around games where anything up to around an 8 point favorite or less. Those are the games where I generally like to do a lot of my betting, but obviously sometimes situations present themselves where teams should win and win big. And even though the Storm are on the road, if they're home, this would be a 20-point line. Can comfortably say that. And I think they get the job done. You could also look at the Storm team total, but I feel like it's going to be pretty high. And with Moses out, you can't have that much confidence in the Parramatta Eels attack, especially against the Storm defense. Broncos versus Bulldogs. Broncos finally broke through for a win after losing 6 straight games. That coincided with the return of Adam Reynolds. And now they face definitely a tougher test this week, even though they're back at home facing the Bulldogs. Broncos minus 8.5 has moved up to 9.5 now at some places. So a bit of money coming early for the Broncos. Bulldogs, it's not an ideal situation. They played the late game on Sunday last week and in North Queensland, and now on a short week playing on the Saturday, the early game as well, playing in Brisbane. So back-to-back road games and also a short week. So it's a really bad situation to be backing the Bulldogs. The other kind of tricky thing about this matchup is, in general, Bulldogs have been a big underside this season. They are the number 2 defensive side and also concede the least tries of any opposition. And generally, you would lead that like straight away towards, okay, we're going to have a low scoring game. However, the last 2 between these sides have been very high scoring, 44-24 and then 34-14. Broncos have won and covered the past 5, all of those as favorite. You can see what the line was in that column there, which I just highlighted. And the home team has been very successful, covering 10 of the past 13 and winning 11 of the past 13. How I'm considering playing this game is the Broncos 1-12 as my most likely bet. I feel like that's like the best way of playing this game. I feel like it could be slightly lower scoring without being like a major low scoring game. And with the Bulldogs defense, I can't quite see them blowing it out. However, I just don't have enough confidence in the Bulldogs with the setup they have coming into this game. This is also a super important game from the Broncos from a ladder perspective. They're currently 2 games out of the top 8 and really can't afford to drop this one, especially at home. Bulldogs are one of those sides sitting 2 wins above them. So effectively holding one of the Broncos spots in the top 8 as it currently stands. And yeah, they definitely can't afford to drop this because that'll put a 3-game gap between them and another side in the top 8. And then it starts to look for the Broncos like they're going to have to start needing other results to not only go their way, plus them to win games in order to get in. So I think the Broncos get the job done. Definitely a low confidence betting game, but as it currently stands, it's leaning to the Broncos 1-12. Cowboys versus Sharks. The Sharks have a really good record in this matchup. They've covered the spread in 8 of the past 9, and they've won 11 of the past 12. The only game the Cowboys won was back in the finals in 2022, and the Cowboys won 32 points to 30. So over the past number of seasons, the Sharks have really dominated, but interesting, they come up as underdogs here, plus 1.5. Cowboys small favorites at home, back-to-back home games for the Cowboys. However, the Sharks coming off the bye last week, so that definitely evens it out slightly. Do like the Sharks here. I like the Bulldogs to go very close to beating the Cowboys up there last week, and we were able to get them at plus 4.5 in the end. So they covered that, and I think the Sharks getting plus 1.5 is just as good of a bet as it was in the Bulldogs Cowboys game last week. Cowboys haven't really been that strong at home this season. Sharks have a really good record on them. Important game for the Sharks to cement their spot in that top 4 with the Roosters and Eagles definitely on their heels. However, those two face each other in the later game on Saturday. But just Sharks, just overall the better side. We look at the statistics overall in the season. I might bring it up on this screen, actually. If we looked at them overall in the season, as I mentioned, the Cowboys home win percentage only going at 50%. Sharks have performed well away from home. Sharks, the number 3 attacking side in points for to the Cowboys, ranked 6th. However, that number has been slowly dropping off as the season has been progressing. And also in tackle breaks, Sharks ranked 3rd, Cowboys 14th in that category. And also Cowboys make the most third most errors in the competition. And then defensively, Sharks clearly the better side. They're a top 4 defensive side in general. And Cowboys, a pretty poor defensive side. First half overs is also a potential play in this game. Both sides do concede above average number of points in first halves this season. We come back over to the trend report. 3 of the past 4 head-to-head have gone over, but we have a 49.5 point total, which I have this number set at 47.5. So that number is 2 points higher than I was expecting. So slightly towards the under, but I definitely won't be taking that. We'll be taking the Sharks either on this money line at above even money. If I could get this at plus 2.5, I would take that around the $1.90 mark. So this is where you want to shop around, go through the different betting companies, look for, one that's giving you a slightly better price on the side that you're looking at, and then take that as opposed to just going with whatever is easily available to you. Roosters versus Eagles. This is probably one of the best games of the round, that's for sure. Both these sides in the race for a top 4 spot, both generally in really, really good form. Roosters slipped up last week, as we mentioned at the top of the video. Manly Seagulls, since the return of Tom Trbojevic, have won 3 straight, beating the Cowboys, Knights, and Gold Coast Titans. Now, those sides, like Cowboys, obviously sit just inside the top 8. The other 2 are bottom 6 teams as it currently stands. So that form is slightly questionable. I think Roosters definitely deserving of being favorite. However, that factor of Roosters not beating top 8 sides does rear its head here. And the Seagulls have won 2 of the past 3 between the sides, and they've split the past 8 meetings, 4 wins apiece. From a betting perspective, this is definitely a really, really tricky game where you kind of have to weigh up how much value do you put in beating up bad teams, because that's kind of been the trend with both of these sides, and now they obviously face each other. I think the best way of playing this game is taking either side to win by 1 to 12 points. We should be able to get $1.70 to $1.80 for that play. And I feel like this game is going to be that 4 to 8 points either way. So obviously you could get better odds for slightly more risk and take 1 to 10 or 1 to 8. But I feel like that's the margin we're going to be looking at. The Roosters -6.5, I feel like is pretty much on the money for this game. Potentially slightly high, could have it -5.5. That kind of tells me a little bit they want you to take the +6.5 for Manly. But taking either side to win by 1 to 12 looks a strong play in this game there. Recent 4 matchups have all been decided by that margin. Manly won by 7, Roosters won by 10, Seagulls by 2, and Roosters by 10 were the past 4. Interesting, back in 2022, the Roosters were 19.5-point favorites in this game, and then Seagulls have gone on to win 2 of the past 3. If we look at the stats for both of these sides, the Roosters #1 attacking side, Manly ranked 5th, Roosters ranked 3rd defensively, Manly ranked 6th. So there's not really a great deal between them, both in really good form, good contest. I feel like it's definitely going to come down to a try either way. Dragons versus Panthers. Penrith 10.5-point favorites. They lost this matchup earlier this season in round 13 at home. Dragons winning 22 points to 10. The Panthers were 12.5-point favorites there. That line's come down slightly. Nathan Cleary returned last week, got the Panthers over the line against the Dolphins. This is an easier matchup, and we're getting a slightly lower line than we were getting last week against the Dolphins. So for that reason, I have to lean towards the Panthers. Cleary will be improved for that recent hit out. Obviously not playing for quite some time. And I think over the next few weeks, we're going to see Penrith build and build towards the end of the season, as we've seen them do the past few years as well. And I think it starts with the Dragons. Dragons are a pretty low side. They haven't performed all that well overall on the season. They're a bottom 8 attack and a bottom 8 defensive side. And Penrith should be able to roll through them. If we get this down slightly lower to single digits, be very confident in this play. The Dragons, overall in the season, majority of their wins have come against bottom sides in the league, and when they've played the better sides, they've lost those games by double digits, with double digits losses twice against the Roosters, against Manly, against the Sharks. So just in the most recent of times, and now against Penrith, who are probably near the better of that bunch as well, then I find it hard to see them winning this game. The other thing to factor into this matchup as well is that the Dragons did win early this season. Hence, for that reason, Penrith aren't going to be taking this game lightly whatsoever. And it's definitely important for them to stay inside the top 2, even though we have 3 to 4. It's pretty much all Sydney teams below them. Finishing in the top 2 gets you that home field advantage through the finals. So Penrith with that good record against the Dragons, winning 6 of the past 7, and Dragons covering the past 5, I think is helping keep this line down slightly as well. So looking for a -9.5, but likely we'll be taking the Panthers to win by double digits. 4 of the past 6 between these sides have gone over. 47.5 is a fairly high line for a Panthers game. We generally don't see them. They're one of the sides have a slightly lower total. And this number is higher than the past 3 meetings. So I'm not really keen on the total in that game. Dolphins take on the Titans. Redcliffe -5.5, $1.48 on the money line. Total 52.5. These sides met in round 8 last season. Redcliffe winning 28 points to 26. Gold Coast covered there as a 2.5-point underdog. This time around, line is slightly bigger. There's 2 ways I'm considering playing this game. Firstly, the Dolphins to cover the -5.5, but I think the play I prefer slightly more is taking the over. Both these sides capable of scoring points and conceding points, and it happening in really short bursts. And I think we're going to see a similar shootout to we saw last season with over 54 exactly points scored. We've got a higher total though. It's gone up 5 points, but we've seen these sides be involved in a number of high scoring matches overall this season. And this matchup definitely sets up for that as well on Sunday afternoon. From a side perspective, the only thing that concerns me about this matchup, I think the Dolphins obviously are the better side, more to play for especially, and should be winning. However, they are yet to win a day match so far this season from 4 attempts, whereas the Titans, they've had 6 wins overall in the season, and 4 of those wins have come in day matches. So that sets them up slightly better from that perspective, but Redcliffe should be the better side overall and did push the Panthers last week. Raiders versus Rabbitohs, final game of the round. Raiders 3.5-point favorites, total 50.5 here. Canberra have won the past 2 and have won 4 of the past 5 versus Rabbitohs, and the Raiders have covered 3 of the past 4. So they do have a good record in this matchup. This is a little bit of another tricky one to look at from a betting perspective. Canberra back-to-back home games. They come into this off extended rest. Rabbitohs playing well. However, just defensively, they are still struggling. That's a major issue for them, but their scoring has improved dramatically. How I feel like is the best play for this game is the over 50.5. Rabbitohs scoring just continues to improve week on week, and both these sides struggle defensively. If we look through their recent games, the Raiders have been involved in slightly lower scoring games recently, but against Melbourne and Newcastle, those sides are involved in low scoring games pretty much every week, especially the Knights. But outside of that, they're on a run of very, very high scoring games, even at home, and a number of those were at home, totaling the 50 points. And then the Rabbitohs concede 20 plus in majority of matches overall this season, and they conceded 28 last week against the West Tigers, who are the worst attacking side in the competition. So this game does set up well to go over the total points line. My only concern is that we're seeing a much higher total than their recent meetings. However, based on how these teams have been performing this year, their last 3 games have also been very high scoring head-to-head. They only meet once per season, so it's been over the past 3 years. And I think that sets it up to be a high scoring game. So we'll be looking at 2 overs to end the round. So we'll quickly recap. Warriors, Tigers, no real interest. Don't mind the Warriors on the money line, as they should be winning this game at home. Eels, Storm, like the Storm, minus 15.5. Broncos, Bulldogs, leaning towards the Broncos to win by 1 to 12 points. Cowboys, Sharks, like the Sharks as an underdog, looking for plus 2.5. Roosters, Seagulls, either side to win by 1 to 12 will be my most likely play in that game. Panthers at the line, looking for minus 9.5. Dolphins, Titans, slightly in towards the total over 52.5. Would obviously prefer a couple of points lower, as 52.5 is a very high total for an NRL game this season. And Raiders, Rabbitohs, over 50.5. That's how I'm considering approaching each game. If you want to use the Bet Finder tools for your own betting to go through and choose your bets, this is everything I use to choose the bets, and not just what you're seeing here. There's over 20 different tools. Click the link in the description. It'll have more details about the bet finders, how you can use them, and how you can use them to make money betting. And the way I set them up is to make it super easy to do your analysis. So it's not a drawn out process where you're clicking across tons of different websites and you're kind of limited for data. And the reason why I created it is, if we just bring up this Warriors Tigers game, we go to the team stats, we'll see their 2 recent meetings, their last 5 games, and then just some basic stats. So the Warriors have scored 374 points. Tigers have scored 321. They've conceded 408. You get the idea. And we scroll through the average completion rate, and that's basically everything you get. If we bring that over to the bet finders here, we're able to break it down overall in the season, their win percentages, their overall rating, attack and defense, then a full breakdown of their attacking statistics. And it's not just looking at, okay, they've conceded 408 points. We're looking at, okay, they concede on average 22.7 points, which is ranked 8th in the league. And how does that compare against the Tigers, who are ranked 17th, conceding 29.9? This information here doesn't really help you make a decision. It kind of confuses you and, raises more questions than answers, I guess. Whereas here, you're able to quickly go through, analyze the games. We can see Warriors clearly the better attacking side. However, in terms of overall in the league, they're not that strong. And Warriors clearly the defensive side we're comparing against the Tigers. So that one's going to be pretty obvious. But as we look through, as we spoke about earlier, the Cowboys, Sharks, we can see they're both top 6 attacking sides in a number of categories. And then defensively, Sharks are the better defensive side. And you can go through, do this for all the games, and also go through and do it for the games coming up next week. So you can also look ahead to the following games, look to take advantage of some early lines and some mistakes in the market before the odds adjust for the upcoming game. So looking at that, and then later this week, I'll be posting the try scorer trends video that we've had a lot of success with over the past 2 weeks. So definitely make sure you subscribe to the channel. You have notifications on so you don't miss that video as soon as it comes out. Already seen this week a couple of players we got last week at slightly bigger odds that we highlighted last week as well. The bookies have put them up much shorter this weekend. So interesting what's happened there. However, it could also just be to the opposition that they're facing. But we'll go through all of that later in the week. If you want to already do your research for the try scorers, those tools that I use in those videos are all in as part of the bet finders. So let's quickly bring it up. The try scorer trends here. For every player lining up this week with the lineups already out, and then you can go through and compare where teams score their tries by position. So keep an eye out for that video. AFL preview for this week will be out shortly as well. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Good luck this weekend.